Welcome everybody to the We-On-Loc Nation channel. As you can see, I'm at a different location, so I'm going to get straight to the point because I still got a lot of unpacking to do. Starting with the Haitian Americans. There was a clip of ICE going after Haitian Americans. Now, previously, I think it was a couple of days ago when I did a live stream. When I did a live stream, and I was speaking to a particular person at that time and stating that it's not just the Mexicans or the Hispanics or whoever who are going to be deported. Trump is trying to make America great again by deporting your black asses too. So whether you're Black American, African American, American, African, Jamaican, Haitian, it doesn't matter. Because at this particular point, your rights, I'm sorry, you have no rights. I've been saying this for the longest. You have no rights under the Deportation Act. His law, his way, his rules. And there was a clip, you can find it on TikTok, you can find it on um, I'm losing train of thought. Instagram. You can find it on Instagram. Hell, you possibly can find it on Facebook. People, black people think that it doesn't affect them too. It absolutely does affect them. It affects anyone who doesn't participate in the dictatorship of Donald J. Trump. I told you he was coming for revenge. I told you he was coming for revenge, and absolutely all that talk about we're gonna lower costs and gas prices, lower the cost in food, lower the cost of housing, all that shit was non and void. He is there to deportate and make America rich, white America rich for the rich, and make poor poorless. If you are anywhere in the state of Nevada sleeping on benches, you will be arrested and detained. If you are anywhere breaking the law by burning the American flag right in front certain venues or anywhere outside of your facility, you can be arrested and detained for a year and possibly a $5,000 fine. And if you don't believe me, you can go on TikTok, you can go on Instagram, and you can look these things up for yourself. Now, as it pertains to Hakeem Jefferies, as it pertains to Hakeem Jefferies, and I want to say what's up to everybody. As it pertains to Hakeem Jefferies, remember January 6th? Do you remember all those, I will call them demonites. I'm just going to call them demonites who stormed the Capitol? One of them was arrested for doing something foul. I think jumping on top of the desk and defecating on the desk or something of that nature. Donald Trump basically let him out. He let him out, and this same particular person, the same particular one, went after Hakeem Jefferies a couple of days ago. And now this is bickering, fighting back and forth about who let who out and who appointed, who detained, and whoever else. They're just bickering back and forth, both Republicans and Democrats. Black folks need to start thinking and start acting. Start thinking with their brains and start acting like they give a damn. And start being independent. Start being independent and start acting like you give a shit. Now, with this first one, I really want you to pay attention. I really want you to pay attention about whose side you think you're on. If you're the side of Republicans, if you're the side of Democrats, or you're independent, I want you to start paying close attention to what it is, who and whoever you are voting for, and start asking the right questions.
Sixth rioter who received one of the president's pardons is now charged with allegedly threatening to kill Hakeem Jefferies. Authorities say Christopher Moynihan, seen here in the Senate chamber during the attack, sent text messages to an anonymous source that said, quote, Hakeem Jefferies makes a speech in a few days in New York City. I can't allow this terrorist to live. Even if I'm hated, he must be eliminated. And I will kill him for the future. That anonymous person then tipped off the FBI. In a statement, the House Minority Leader criticized the blanket pardon that Trump gave to the January 6 defendants and said acts of violence will not stop us for the American people. First of all, this is scary. But second of all, I don't know, concept of people in the what they
grateful the FBI is as impressive as they are.
Excuse me about that. Excuse me. Got to get my internet tight. We just moved into a different location. So pardon me for that introduction. Let me get to these let me get to the chat real quick before we restart reconfigurate. We're gonna get it tight. Don't worry. We're gonna get it up and running. Even if I had to buy a router. All the promises, all these promises were BS talking about Trump was we shouldn't be shocked, right? This is a man who had fact checked for lives 40,000 lives. If my grandmother were alive today, she would say that she would say the truth is not in the man. Mm, this brother looks like a what this brother looks like a former partner of the state commission. Unfortunately, he passed away during the COVID year. Well, I am deeply sorry for that. My condolences to you and to you and your family. My condolences, definitely my condolences. Now I got a schedule to keep, so let me continue let me continue with this because I am not going to be here. He looked like a crackhead from this distance.
that said, quote, Hakeem Jefferies makes a speech in a few and I will and acts of violence will not stop up and speaking up for the American people. First of all, this is scary. But second of all, it's, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a natural consequence of pardoning people in a blanket fashion. Just period. The end.
As impressive as they are and was able to capture this, there's a man named Alton Mills who Barack Obama pardoned, who was a violent criminal and went on to murder.
I have a question. Why do when of course this is just a question I've been pondering for I don't know. I wasn't a political scientist or nothing like that. I knew nothing about politics because I just think politics were full of. So my question to you and the people out there, especially black folks, why do we always go back 4 years, 8 years, 16 years, 24 years, 20 years, 24 years? Why do we always go back and blame the one president who was not president? Why do we have to come up with those? That's just me. Can anybody answer that question for me? This woman wants to blame Obama for who he let out. This person wants to blame Joe Biden for who he let out. Who gives a shit? Who's in power right now? Who is the president right now at this very moment? Can anybody answer that question for me?
Or somebody else. No one here knows his name because the reality is we can't be for one thing, but I think to take a bigger look at what's going on, there is in fact one party that frequently releases violent criminals and puts them back on the street, and that is the Democratic Party, who's a soft on.
Cornel West.
Crime. There was a man, DeCarlos Brown, who was arrested 14 times and went on to murder someone. So I think that is a bigger problem that Americans are facing today. And as for Hakeem Jefferies, absolutely disgusting that somebody wanted to target him, and I'm so grateful that the FBI discovered that plot.
So a few weeks ago, rhetoric was the issue and was the source of political violence on the left. Now here's a man who was pardoned by this president for a violent act, who then threatens a member of Congress, congressional leadership, and it's no big deal?
It is a big deal. Absolutely. It's a huge deal. The plot was foiled, and
right, but
thankfully everyone is safe.
I thought we just had this whole national conversation about rhetoric, which, by the way, I don't want to endorse that, but I'm just saying, especially on the right, that was the conversation, was that rhetoric was leading to violence. But now all of a sudden it's like, well, this is just what happens when you let people out of prison. It's just
Exactly my point. And I vouch for the sister. Why are we not focused on the here and the now? It's always pointing fingers. Well, this is like the lady said, this is what happens when you let criminals out of prison. So what does slamming, quote unquote, slamming the book on a criminal looks like? What does that mean? What does that mean for the, let's just say, for the average black man who steals a candy bar from a store? Do you give him 10 years or do you give him 20 years? Throwing the book, the actual wording is throwing the book. Now you see how I'm starting to learn these certain terminologies. Throwing the book at one particular person who has stolen a pack of cigarettes, who has stolen a pop. I'm just going by the little itty bitty details for a reason. But people like this can be pardoned and sent out into the world. and can absolutely threaten a congressman or a congresswoman or even threaten the president himself. And everything's okay. And I'll bet you Donald Trump will let his ass out once more and nothing can be done about it.
It's not what happens, and that's why
what
we're
hap-
opposed to the soft on crime policies. Look, I'm not going to get into the pardons, whether that was a good thing or not, but it's happened,
I mean,
and we
why
can
not?
only
Why
move
can't we get into
forward
the pardons and whether it
make
was
sure
good or
that the
not?
people who are dangerous criminals
But
are
isn't
off
that the
the
issue?
streets.
Isn't the issue in part whether the pardons were good or not? You mentioned, we're talking about this guy, but there were several others. Another pardoned January 6th rioter was shot and killed in a confrontation with Indiana police. A January 6th rioter who was pardoned by Trump faced child sex charges. Ex-Proud Boy Enrique Tarrio arrested on assault.
Pardon, January 6th riot, shot, killed by police in India. January 6th riot, pardoned by Donald Trump facing child sex charges. I mean, all this Donald Trump is releasing because he feels that criminals like this deserves a second chance, deserves a second chance in life. Well, if that's the case, why don't you let C murder out of prison for something basically that he was participating in, but he didn't do the actual crime itself. Why don't you let C murder out of jail? Why don't you let some of these black folks out of jail? If this is the case, why don't you just let some of these people out of prison on good behavior? Just pardon them. Just like Obama promised to pardon some of these people who were in jail for a very long time, right? Certain ones who did certain crimes. Why can't this president do the same thing? He proclaimed that this person who was participating in the January 6th riots, that he was all good. He did nothing. He did nothing wrong. He just acted on his own accord and just went into the Capitol and did absolutely nothing. It was a mistake. It was a total mistake. It was a total mistake. So we're just gonna let him out. Ex-Proud Boy leaders acquired Tory arrested on assault charges outside the U.S. Capitol. Former January 6th defendant who was arrested near Obama's house, convicted on gun charges. This is your president.
Charges outside of the Capitol after he was pardoned. Another rioter charged with burglary in Virginia. Another rioter arrested near Obama's house and convicted on gun charges. I mean, part of the issue here is that Trump pardoned a bunch of people who were convicted in many cases for violent crimes.
And the issue is, look, first, two things. One, I think we should also commend the anonymous person who tipped off authorities. And today I also saw a story about a foiled plot in the Atlanta airport where that man's family tipped off authorities. And so the fact that we are more vigilant as a society and that people are taking the proactive action of trying to stop this and taking these threats seriously, I think is something good that we need to recognize and applaud. As you were mentioning, there's been at least 8 reported pardoned January 6th convicted felons who have been rearrested for different things.
She gets on my nerves.
Soliciting minors, firearm possession, different things. Look, here's a problem. That really pardons are a very serious thing which should be given all the weight and consideration and deliberation. Donald Trump wanted to make a big splash with pardoning them all with a blanket pardon on his first day, the first thing he signed, the first thing he did. If time had been taken to analyze each of them individually, maybe some of these things could have been avoided. But we are where we are. There's been at least 8. It's not the first. Hopefully this will be the last.
It is a risk when you blanket pardon a group without really looking into the individuals. The same risk applies to Joe Biden, who pardoned thousands of drug criminals without looking into the individual files at the end of his administration. I don't know how many of them have reoffended. I'm sure if they haven't, some probably will because of the volume of them, and they'll be responsible for that.
Are you suggesting that because Joe Biden did not personally look into each file, or because it did not go through a process? Because I'm not sure it didn't go through a process.
But I'm saying the president, it's pretty well reported that the president himself did not go through each individual case.
Sure, but
and I'm just saying, like, it's a risk.
I understand that, but you understand also that there is actually a DOJ process generally that most other pardons go through, and even that process was circumvented for these January 6 rioters, and I don't think that they were.
Well, I think the drug cases, it was, I mean, they were looking for a class of people who they thought had been simply overcharged because of the drug issue. My point is simply this: whenever you do a large group of people and you're the president, the buck stops with you. You're ultimately responsible for what happens. I do agree; it's hard to connect one thing to the other. You don't know what people are going to do. I personally have no tolerance whatsoever for people who are granted mercy in our unique way we do it, and then go out and abuse that mercy. I have no tolerance for political violence. I have no tolerance for people threatening to kill anyone, from Hakeem Jefferies to Brett Kavanaugh to the other kinds of things we've seen. I have no tolerance for it, and I got to throw the book at them. And I don't think any more mercy ought to be forthcoming people who have abused it in the past.
Well, I agree.
Before this brother starts speaking, Carnell West, haven't you noticed that they all say the same thing? They all say the same thing if you listen to it carefully. They all say the same thing. It was like, we got violence in the East. No, there's violence in the West. They all say the same thing. It's like, you're responsible. The buck stops with the president. This buck stops with this president. This buck stops with this union. This buck stops with that union. Blah, 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 blah. They're all going at each other. And what's current today, they do not address fully. It's always half-assed. They always want to address what's going on in the past. They always address what you wanted to address. I mean, it's 2025, about to be 2026. We can't continue this in 2026. We don't know what's going to happen in 2026. So, newsflash, hello, ding, ding. Who's in office right now in this current moment? Who's in office? Who is responsible for all the BS that's happening right now in our homes, in front of your noses, right in front of your face?
But that means, in fact, that there's no moral or legal justification of blanket pardoning of insurrectionists January 6th. There's not in any way a persuasive argument one can make. And that's true for any president, be it Biden or be it Trump. And as you know, I'm not a fan of either one of those because I think they're tied to war crimes in Gaza, but that's just a rich footnote. But the important thing is more than just a risk, though, brother. It is no moral and legal justification. Drop the mic.
Well, the lack of remorse is one big part of it. I mean, these people were not remorseful in any way, and that's a big part of the problem.
Yeah, so we were talking about pardons last week. I think pardons and commutations play an important role in our, and that the president should have that authority. I think that there needs to be systems and standards that apply for every president across the board, Democrat or Republican.
Absolutely.
But that aside, I think we're missing the context in which we're actually talking about when the story started about this individual and what they were actually trying to do on January 6th and how dangerous it was for our country, for people in the Capitol at that time. And so then I guess the question is, I like to see that usually when you get pardoned, there's a form of rehabilitation that happens. You have to show that you served some time and that you've actually, we don't really know if that happened because it happened so fast under this administration. It was a campaign promise. It was actually like, I don't care if they serve time and they did some rehabilitation. I'm going to do it so that my folks know I stand with these folks. And the final question I just have to ask is, Scott, you and I are aligned. There is no place for political violence anywhere, but why is it so heightened right now? And what is the antidote to bring it down? Because just putting one side against the other, we're just going to always just try to keep outdoing each other, and then violence will keep happening. So I want to go a layer deeper and try and figure out, like, why is this violence surfacing in such a way right now, and how do we get it to stop?
I could answer that question, but then again, I can't answer the question because I want to say it's almost inevitable because you can arrest 500,000 a day, and there could be one tomorrow, and it could absolutely ruin your whole entire day, but we will never know. all we can do is continue to try. Especially in the United States of America. All we can do is attempt to try. Hakeem, I feel for Hakeem Jefferies. I really do. But then there are going to be those white Americans who say the exact same thing, but they're also going to want you to look at the other side of the other Americans. And we all know what the other American is. They're called white Americans. We should look at white Americans. We should look at these Asian Americans. We're going to be looking at the Hispanic Americans. We all live here in the same place. I ask you, what does fairness look like? For anybody who tells me it should be fair to look at other ethnicities, other minorities, I'm going to ask you this question. What does fairness look like? In other words, am I able to get a job at a law firm? Am I able to get a job at a construction site? Am I able to compete and get the same pay as my white counterpart? What does fairness look like? People often say, well, you need to deport these people, you need to deport that people. Economically, it doesn't look good. Theoretically, we could do that. But economically, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. And believe me, I'm going to get to the economic part sooner than you think. But like I said, I feel deeply sorry for Hakeem Jefferies. Support, but here's some familiars, especially from our sister, hopefully, yes, I did say future president.
They are the ones telling white supremacists and racists that it is okay to do the things that they're doing. They are the ones that decided to let George who got he decided that he was going to perpetrate a fraud. He was going to enter a plea of guilty, and he only got 7 years, while Monica is facing 17. I'm sick and tired of it. That he let out on the first day, decided that he was going to put a murder. He plotted a murder on the leader of the minority party, Hakeem Jefferies. He was arrested today. They are the ones bringing criminals into our neighborhoods. They are the ones telling white supremacists and racists that it is okay to do the things that they're the ones that decided.
That was future President Jasmine Crockett. And in hopes that, once again, for those who do not like to listen, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. Those who do not like to listen, when I say Jasmine Crockett for president, that means for the foreseeable future, the foreseeable future, out there, foreseeable future, it may not be in 2028. It might be in 2032 or 2037. You don't know. Hopefully, maybe. I mean, I'm voting for her. Put it that way. If she wants to run, if she decides to run, I'm voting for her 10 times over. That's just me. That's just my take on it, right? But for everybody else that keeps saying, no, she's not going to run for president. She's not going to be good. That's your opinion, dude. That's your opinion. Right? We all know that she's planning. She said this verbatim that she is going to be running for U.S. Senate. We know that, and all best of luck to Mrs. Jasmine Crockett, the Congresswoman. Uh, Good luck to you. But my position stands, and it's going to forever stand. Those who don't like it, tough titty. Now, like I said, I'm going to not be here for very long, but for those of you who want to start challenging these ICE people, I'm going to give you some sound advice. Don't. Haiti is not in a position. I totally the bravery. I totally commend for the bravery, but for their future, don't. Unless you are planning to organize your neighborhoods, organize your position, organize to get people in place so when they do, you are ready, and you are ready, you are physically ready, you are mentally ready. But right now you're not in a position to do anything because if they really wanted to, they will do the exact same thing that they did to the Mexicans, the Hispanics, or whatever. They'll do the exact same thing that they did in Chicago, in Portland, in even in Florida. I might be wrong on that, but they'll do the exact same thing to you. And I'm surprised that they're not in Nevada yet. I'm surprised. I'm shocked because Nevada is not too far from California. Nevada is not too far from California. As a matter of fact, it's a 5-hour drive. And who particularly comes here and that's holding this up is a corporation. The gangsters are no longer a factor anymore. It's only the corporation. So yes, I'm surprised that Trump, whose hotel, he doesn't even own that hotel anymore. But I'm so convinced that he will pretty soon, if not approach Nevada pretty soon. Now I'm going to give now a couple minutes and we're going to look at the chat. We-On-Loc, that creator I told you about, is having another live about that boycott Christmas. Boycott Christmas, attending that is happening right now. She's gonna go live at 2:45 p.m. because again, you gotta give me a Pacific Eastern. What we talking? Pacific Eastern Central. What we talking? Are we talking Pacific, Eastern, Central time? What are we talking about? What are you talking about? Because I've been out the loop. I have definitely been out the loop. And you were supposed to give me a link to that. What was it? Redlining or something like that. You were supposed to give me a link to that, and I didn't receive a link. So, as a matter of fact, you can go ahead. You can go ahead and email me .com or Big Bill 3 is Central, so they are right now. So leave me a link. Let me put that. There we go. Just leave me a link, sis. This is one of the most irritating things that a person can do. But then again, he's a billionaire. And he's a billionaire. He can make any type of choice he wants. I can drop the link right here. Okay. He can make any type of choice that he wants, but people are often surprised. They're like, why are you surprised? It's Donald Trump. The, the last 8 years, excuse me, the last past 8 years was a mess. And like I said, just because he gave you a billion here doesn't mean he wasn't going to give you another stimulus check. With people are bugging, by the way, about how he's going to give $2,000 to each and every single family. I don't know how you were going to do that. And links that people not go to because those are fake. Those are just true fake. He's not that money. $2,000 to each family. No, we won't do that. We won't. But then again, I might be wrong. I don't know how he's going to do it because we gave away most of our resources from the last stimulus check. So while we are waiting on this link, we're going to go ahead and, I guess, play the next clip.
Well, that's not clear, and that, is for people to judge the credibility of that response. At the end of the day, here in America, we're living in a moment of extreme political violence, and that impacts every single person in public service and the people that we are all working hard to represent. But we will not be intimidated. We will continue to show up and stand up and speak up for the American people to improve their quality of life, to address the extremism that is being unleashed on everyday Americans by this administration all across the country. We will not bend. We will not break. We will never bow down. And when it comes to these extremists out there, you better watch how you talk when you talk about me. Next question. Thanks. I think the reckless and irresponsible pardons of hundreds of violent felons on January 6th has consequences, as eloquently articulated by Representative Jamie Raskin. There are consequences to that. Beyond me. The consequences are We've seen crimes committed by people who Donald Trump pardoned on the first day he was sworn into office by folks who have been released back into society all across the country. Some of them violent crimes. And so there are consequences to these irresponsible actions, and not a single House Republican has walked away from it. Not a single one. There are consequences when these extremists who are part of the Trump administration label the entirety of the Democratic Party as terrorists or criminals. There are consequences to that beyond us. We all know what we signed up for, but there's pain being visited upon the American people because of actions taken by Donald Trump, supported by House Republicans and Senate Republicans on day one of his presidency. I want to yield to my two colleagues, but by the way, what Donald Trump promised to do on day one of his presidency was lower costs for everyday Americans. That was the promise. He lied to the American people all of last year. Did he ever say I was going to pardon hundreds at this Capitol on January 6th? Did he ever say that? Was that the promise that Donald Trump made? The country, no. They failed to lower costs. Life is more expensive for everyday Americans. Electricity, road costs up, housing up, and to jack up on working class Americans. But they have time to pardon hundreds of violent felons, release them back into society, threatening the public safety of everyday Americans, and then can't spend a moment trying to make life more affordable, make healthcare more affordable for the American people.
That's that brother Hakeem Jefferies. Yeah, I got the links. If you have any questions for me, or if you have any, just go to that, go to my Gmail. Support the channel. Support the channel. The We-On-Loc Nation channel. We're growing. We're continue to grow. And once again, I absolutely, positively thank you. Thank you for this new subscribership. Thank you for the new membership for Mr. Let me go to this because I don't want to mishandle that. Thank you for the new membership, Mr. Let me go to here. Let me go to my Oh, here we go. I'm gonna welcome in a new member, and his name is Mr. Michael Sparks. Thank you for the new membership, Mr. Michael Sparks. I've gotten about you, and anybody who else wants to become a member of the online channel, just lock in, and hey, this is all for us. And we will definitely see you. I got your link, sis, and I will definitely tap into that. Thank you so much, Barbie. And I will definitely see you guys soon when I'm not tired and my back is not broken and still moving.